So you're Blues captain Ryan O'Reilly, and you want a haircut that's as custom as your stick curve. At Great Clips, we save your haircut details in clip notes, so you get your signature look every time. We got you, and you got this. Great Clips, official hair salon of the NHL.
Sekeres and Price from Wall Center. And joining us now, as he does each and every Monday, our NHL insider from the Bob McCown podcast, the former executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada, Mr. John Shannon. How you doing, John?
I'm well, boys. How are you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, quite a 24-hour period here for the sport with a Cup champion and the Hall of Fame announcement today. We know this is a one-off. Is it robbing at all from the Colorado Avalanche luster coming so soon?
No, I don't think so. I don't think people in Vancouver or people in Ottawa were really concerned when the parade's going to be. So because we're invited, but we're not going. So I think that the Hall of Fame is back to its traditional date of this last Monday in July or in June rather, and so. It just so happened that it coincided with this year's Stanley Cup final, and hopefully next year's Stanley Cup final is on the 13th of June as opposed to the 26th.
Yeah, we get back on schedule here. Roberto, Luongo, Daniel and Henrik Sedin, all first ballot Hall of Famers, and unequivocally the most consequential day for the Canucks franchise at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Your impressions on these three?
On their first I think that it's. I mean, we don't give the Hall very much credit very often because it's almost like a secret society. But to have the vision and understanding how important it was to put both of them in together, the twins, was vitally important. And then to give due to Roberto Luongo, who, as an Olympic champion, may not have been a Stanley Cup champion, but his body of work was so good for so long, particularly in Vancouver, but at times and in both stints in Florida, that he certainly deserved his time in the Hall of Fame. And you're right, it is fitting that the three of them go in together. You try to think about what former Canucks are in the Hall. Pavel Bure, I guess, counts as a former Canuck, although that he did a lot of his great work with the Rangers or with Florida. But there aren't many. And that's why this is such an important day, that these guys deserve so much attention and so much congratulations.
Couple of follow-ups. Number one, including Daniel Alfredsson, not a cup in sight with those four players, yet they go in. And,
no, but here's the thing, Matt. Here's the thing I would tell you, and I think this is where hockey has finally got itself out of its own way, is that we're now paying much more attention to the international game. And so that Alfredsson's an Olympic champion. Alfredsson's a world champion. And this is the Hockey Hall of Fame, not the NHL Hall of Fame. And that's really important. The role that other countries other than ours and the United States play in this game is growing. And to me, I saw Daniel play enough to know that this was a no-brainer. It should have been a no-brainer in other years. But the politics of, well, this guy's better, so does he get in? There's still a couple of people that I would love to see in the Hall that I believe were nominated this year, that haven't gotten their due, and they should at some point.
Who's that?
Alex Mogilny. I think Alexander Mogilny is one of the greatest two-way hockey players the game has ever seen. Here's a guy that came here as a pure sniper, a goal scorer, and was smart enough to know that he and was a champion so many different ways. Remember, in junior hockey, his line mates were Bure and Fedorov.
That's right.
Yeah. And then won 3 Stanley Cup championships. And I just think that Alex, I was one of the lucky guys that voted for the top 100 players in NHL history. And he was not on the ballot, and I wrote him in on the ballot. For me, he was one of the guys. And I think he deserves as much credit as anybody that started as a sniper and moved to being a great two-way player, like Steve Yzerman did, like Joe Nieuwendyk did, and Alex Mogilny, in my mind, is in that category, and he should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and with all due respect to Daniel Alfredson, had it been Mogilny, John, they could have just had the ceremony out here in Vancouver.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? If you could guarantee 5,000 tickets at about $350 a pop, Jeff, they would have done it. and listen, John, that I actually did think of that. I mean, wouldn't that have been grand if it was all three of them? But those three guys, Roberto, Luongo, you know, for two generations of Canuck fans, this is a really special day.
When you think of the Sedins, you've been in this game, you've seen them throughout their career, you've seen lots of great stories. Like, what comes to mind, sort of what's top of mind for you when you think of Daniel and Henrik Sedin?
The no-look pass, you know, the puck to the zone, and mysteriously 22 or 33 are there. And then it's the immeasurables, and you guys have been around them enough. I was not in the dressing rooms as much as you guys were in Vancouver, but I was in dressing rooms around the league with them. And just the way they carried themselves, the fact that there was always a positive answer, the fact that they would always come over and say hello and shake your hand. I mean, and you may not have seen them for 6 to 8 months, but they always said hello. They were great ambassadors for the game of hockey, both on and off the ice. And you know, they carried that through. I mean, that last week with the goodbye shows that existed in Vancouver and in other cities, you knew that the respect for Daniel and Henrik was great as players and may even be greater as people. And that's what I'll remember about them, is pure, unadulterated class.
Yeah, and I think you summed it up there. I mean, they're human Hall of Famers, and now they get the hockey nod to go along with it.
And you know, their innate ability to make everyone around them be special, both on and off the ice. I mean, how much money did, and not to be crass about it, but how much money did the Twins make Trent Klatt? How much money did the Twins make Anson Carter? You know,
Alex Burrows.
You know that, and that's the ultimate team, and they were ultimate teammates, not just to themselves, but to everybody on the roster. And you know, they're such ambassadors of the game and of Vancouver now. You know, it's the right thing to do at the right time. They were always made special the day since Brian Burke made that trade to get them back to back, and to have them go into the Hall of Fame is just, it's the way to do it.
Yeah. Switching gears, my friend, your impressions on the new Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, not only their victory, but their celebration.
Well, good for them.
Last evening. Good
for them. The celebration. I enjoyed it. I'm one of those guys that, at the end of the hockey season is important to me. And I could not get enough of watching them after the game, whether it be online or whether it be on, you know, my multiple televisions back here, on a satellite feed or a cable feed. So to me, the pure and utter joy, and the fact that they were not afraid to shed a tear of joy, spoke to what this organization has done. You know, and again, hey, listen, there is a West Coast attachment to this team too. When you think of Burnaby Joe, and what he has done, and the patience that he had as the general manager.
There's a number of unrestricted free agents, including the goaltender Kemper and Nazem Kadri, some RFAs as well for the Colorado Avalanche. They have drafted and developed very, very wisely, it must be said. There's a history now with the Pittsburgh back-to-back cups and then Tampa with back-to-back cups and getting to the final. Do you see a similar path for this franchise, or do you think it is going to be more difficult for them to get back to the final next year and in years forward?
Well, I think then you have to look at the Western Conference and who's going to challenge them in the Western Conference. Is there anybody in the Central that can come close to them? If Doug Armstrong in St. Louis is able to keep his team together, are they too long on the tooth? Have their young guns like Jordan Kyrou, are they in a place? What does Bruce Cassidy do for the Golden Knights? Are they going to be in a better position? Is their goaltending going to allow them to be a difference maker in the West? Is Edmonton at a point now where Kenny Holland and Jay Woodcroft can get them over the conference final hump? That to me, I think they can certainly get to another Stanley Cup final. I don't think it's easily. I don't think anything's easy, even though what were they, 16-4? I think 16-4 this year. But it's certainly much tougher in the East to get to the Stanley Cup final than it is in the West.
You're not lying. I mean, you take a look at Minnesota, and they're going to be cap crippled next year because of their buyouts. Calgary's got to re-sign Johnny Gaudreau, or where are they going to be at? Nashville's got to re-sign Philip Forsberg, or where are they going to be at? Boy, if Edmonton can just get a goaltender this offseason, you wonder if they might be the chief challenger.
Yeah, they still they've got to figure out if they can find a way to keep Evander Kane. And they really still do need a little help on the blue line in addition to goaltending. Yeah. But they may get a favor, I don't know a thing, but they may get a favor if both Mike Smith and Duncan Keith retire. And if you could,
are you hearing that, John?
They've been given lots of time to think about it. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Heck, maybe one of the young up-and-comers next year, like a Kings who vie with Colorado.
And that's it. I mean, but Colorado right now, certainly in the West, Colorado is going to be the target of every team in these two divisions for sure.
John, you mentioned Burnaby Joe. We've talked about some of the stars, and there were plenty of them on that Colorado team. The Jared Bednar story is a pretty good one. And I think maybe now the hockey world is starting to give this guy his due, that he wasn't just a last-minute replacement for Patrick Waugh when Waugh stepped away. And obviously that first season was a disaster for the Colorado Avalanche, but some patience throughout the organization. But the guy's just been a winner wherever he's gone.
No, hey, listen, no question. I have a few friends in the Columbus organization that all they've done, even since Jared went to Colorado, is rave about him. I have a few friends that actually will go all the way back to South Carolina with him in the East Coast League, and they talk about his genuine passion for the game and his compassion for players. But let's remember, just over a year ago, guys, I think he was in trouble. He made some outlandish statements about his star players after they lost in 6 games to Vegas. And Vegas actually won the last 4 games. And I think that there was a few question marks, and that's where Joe Sakic deserves credit for sticking with Jared. And I think Jared learned from it too. This, to me, as good a coach as Jared is, and obviously he has a pedigree, this is a player's team. This is Gabriel Landeskog's team. And there's no doubt in my mind that Gabe Landeskog does a lot more than we realize with this hockey club. And to think a year ago he was unsigned and could have gone as a free agent somewhere else, and really in many ways took a discount after testing the waters and realizing there weren't as many people interested in him as he thought there would be. To me, Gabriel Landeskog, to me, he's the straw that stirs this drink in Colorado in so many ways. It's not McKinnon, great player. Cale Makar is learning. It's Gabriel Landeskog that sets the tone.
That's a scary thought to think about when you mention that a guy like Cale Makar is learning.
I know.
Because...
Well, and Bo Byram. Hey, listen, the other kid, another West Coast kid, right? Yep.
Absolutely.
And what Byram's gone through this year, and to come out this way and come out as a champion, he on any other team, he's not living in the shadow of anybody. He's living in the shadow of Cale Makar. I mean, it's amazing. And they did this without Sam Girard. You know, this is a good deep hockey team. I mean, I think a lot of people wonder if Kadri can stay. I just financially, I don't know how he can, because he's going to get a giant raise. He's got a new agent. Remember, he's got Darren Ferris now, I believe, and Darren is he's known for getting the most for his clients, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens to Kadri after the 13th of July.
Echoing the pat down on Bowen Byram today. No, there's a ton of BC connections on this team. Alex Newhook, Josh Manson were both, and Devon Taves, all BCHLers. Right. And then, of course, as you mentioned, Byron from Cranbrook. All right. Last thing, what are you hearing on the Canucks in the off season here as we finally slide into it? It's been weeks we've been asking you these questions, John Shannon. And
well, we haven't talked since Dale Talon was hired. No, you had him on the pod not that long ago.
Yeah.
Raise some eyebrows out here.
Yeah, and quite frankly, it probably shouldn't have. We probably should have been able to connect the dots on that one. Dale, I think Dale's a great scout. I think Dale's ability to analyze a player, analyze the intangibles of a player, and he and Jim Rutherford have been friends a long time. And I think that this to me was something that has probably been in the back of Rutherford's mind from the beginning, particularly when he heard that Francesco had been talking to Dale. So I think Dale's going to fit in very nicely there. We're not going to see Dale very often, you know. He's going. We're going to hear about Dale. I may see Dale more here in Southern Ontario than you guys will. But certainly, Dale wanted to get back in the game. He has a passion for the game, and I think that his skills are going to be utilized properly by the Canucks.
Wonderful stuff. We know you're on your way to a golf holiday. You enjoy it. Fairways and greens, Mr. Shannon.
I tell you what, I'm more than happy to talk to you from the 16th hole at Cabot Links.
Gosh. Well, until then, next Monday, you enjoy it, my man.
Cheers.
Take some photos for us, John Shannon, everybody, our Monday regular from the Bob McCowan podcast, the former executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada. He asked a very good question about, who challenges Colorado in the West next year. And of course, a lot of, our information on this is about to play out over the next month or so. But right now, he's quite right. I mean, even with the UFAs and the RFAs, if they return that core, mentioned it earlier, the Bodog betting line favorites all these months out.